I'm not sure what this thing is. Looks like a kind of cauldron. More howking going on in the background. Don't know if you heard it. Kind of cauldron arrangement. They make a meal of it. They really do it at the top of their voices, these Chinese people. They really make a... Maybe it is a meal, maybe it's a way of actually getting some supplementary calories out of one's own throat. I've no idea. But certainly it's rather surprising. This is the so-called Beijing International Hotel, which is quite impressive. And there's something else there which looks very Chinese, with the like hats on top of the building. And the street is starting to get a golden light from the tungsten bulbs, which is quite nice. It's good, you know, for this kind of film. It's not so good for the camera now because the flash keeps wanting to come on. But it's a nice, there's enough light even in the sky to oh, here's an interesting thing. These buses that shout in people who get in their way. If we're lucky, we'll see a shouting bus. Doesn't seem to want to move. Oh, it's not saying anything. It's definitely time to eat, that's for sure. Oh, look at that thing. All lit up. So look at that. Not sure what it is, but it certainly turns the Blackpool illuminations on for it. That's Chao Yang Men South Alley. This guy looks as though he's getting penalised for bad driving. Interesting patterns on the top of the building. Okay.
然后第二个，我们都在这站着，就这么大门大来过来了啊！咱这一段时间都一直都在关注这个事儿。这样等于这边一直对。
He's giving her a right or telling off for having a bicycle. The guy standing here looking not happy. The guy that was fined a second ago. The guy that was the guy that was fined a second ago was walking away with a smile on his face. I'm not sure whether that meant he felt he'd gotten let off lightly, or whether this is part of this Chinese face business where you you know, if you've been hard treated, you don't show it. If you're upset or unhappy, you don't show it. You just keep a kind of happy demeanour. Not sure to what extent that's all that healthy. Maybe he was doing that, maybe he really felt he'd been let off lightly, or maybe he just thought the whole situation was surreal. I'm not sure why they were being told off by the policeman, but and he was certainly looking stern. But I heard Sao Lu or something, that he said to them that you should be walking. I don't know whether that meant that they were supposed to get off their bikes and walk at the crossing. Certainly if that's the case, I can say that that's a law which is not particularly well honoured in this country. That's for sure. So you got a touch of somebody's nicotine there. Oh, there we are. That's interesting, isn't it? A Hats building. Not sure what it is. That's something you don't notice much in Eastern Europe. People actually queuing up in an orderly way to get on the bus. And you won't get on if you're not first in the queue, rather than, even if you're the strongest, you won't get on. I mean, my dad's got this idea about the Chinese that they just push it all the time and don't know how to queue, but there you go, you've got the actual lines down there. That's the queue for the bus number 10, this is presumably for the 90. That's presumably something else, don't know what. Maybe it had numbers on, they've just painted over them, there's another one. So, and they still make sure that after a certain way out you don't get to you're supposed to turn away and queue down that way. So that's quite helpful, isn't it? I mean, in Poland, I can tell you what happens. People form a disorderly crowd at the bus stop, and everybody kind of positions themselves roughly where they think the doors of the bus are going to be. Then they move forward as the bus is there, so that when it comes in, you know, it almost hits them as it comes to a halt. The person that is nearest by pot luck to the door goes in first, and everybody else sees how they can push, avoiding eye contact with other people, because if you get eye contact with somebody, then certain other rules of manners would start to come into force, like gentlemen letting ladies go, younger people letting older people go. But as long as people don't look at each other, then they can get away with behaving in a more brutal way. But here it seems to be more orderly. Well, this seems to be like a China's answer to Oxford Street going down there. Very packed with shops, and brand name shops, some of them, with Chinese versions. And here, I seem off the side, I seem to have found finally something that looks like what I would have thought is a Hutong. Maybe this is really a Hutong, I don't know. So I'll have a look down it. Here I am, I'm walking. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe this is finally a Hutong. Maybe it isn't. I'm not sure. Well, it's not really going anywhere, is it? And it's not all that old-fashioned either, so whether it really was one, I don't know. No, probably not. Probably just a side street. But no idea what this thing is. All spikes all over it. I've never seen that before. Looks like a kind of spiky... There's something else here which I don't recognise. Funny looking thing. That must be guavas. That must be limes. These are all things that must be little satsumas. These are all things that the Chinese have still got that we haven't taken from them yet. We were too slow about getting that one, I suppose. Or maybe we didn't like it. Some of these things come and go because we don't. Not everything that comes over necessarily catches on.